right, well, welcome everybody to another Lunch and Learn. So I went on a bit of a journey, that's why it took me so long to start. Because as I started thinking about this, I realized there's a lot more to this than first came to my mind. At first I was thinking pro-synergy, productivity, tools. And then as I thought about it, it's like, okay, there's habits, but more importantly yet are mindsets. So it's going to be a series of them, and we're going to get to practical habits and tools. But I first wanted to talk about mindsets that I think are really important for productivity. So, funny story, I guess, or funny picture. But when I was 19 years old, I got a car, and AI generated this one for me. But it looks pretty much like my car did back then. It was that color blue. I fixed it all up. Just a very basic car with a very small engine, these Volkswagen Jettas. Very tiny engine. Yes. When I was 19 years old, I got this Jetta. Had a very tiny diesel engine in it. And I had a lot of fun optimizing this car to see not only how much horsepower I could get out of the car, but how much fuel mileage. So you can buy a car with a big 8-cylinder engine and it'll be powerful and you'll go. But what fun is there in that? This was a tiny engine, and I figured out all the different ways to optimize it, tune it, turbos, injectors, intercooler, all kinds of things you can do to a car. And I love to say, hey, this car can get 55 miles per gallon. Everybody's like, I've never heard of a car that can get that good fuel mileage. And then they're like, and I can also go up beside someone in the street. Unfortunately, I enjoyed this too much. So it was faster and better fuel economy, and I loved that. And I sort of thought about this in terms of pro-synergy too. I would love to run a finely tuned machine for a company. Our company is people, not cars. So this is where I'm saying it turned out very differently as I kept thinking about it. You don't tune a company, you don't tune people like you tune cars. It's very different. So we'll talk about that today a bit. I wanted to just start out with a few questions, and we're going to do a poll to see what you think. So if you have your phones, you'll be scanning a QR code. But I want you to think about this. How much are you capable of? And how well are you utilized here at ProSynergy? So what I mean is, what is your potential? Not just in getting things done quickly, but what's your potential as far as your personal character, how well you're using your mind, your creativity, how well you're living out your passion, your vision for your life, what you really want to do with your life. How much are you capable of? And if you think about people, you think about a car, there's a limit to how much that car was capable of. But for humans, it's infinite. You really have no idea, I have no idea how much Gita is capable of, because humans have infinite capability. So I just want you to think about this for a little bit. How much are you capable of? And as you think about this, and pro-synergy specifically, how well would you say that this is utilized here? So there's going to be a poll, and I want everybody, this is just for fun, just to see what you think. So go ahead and scan the QR code and put your vote in, and we'll see the votes come in as you put your vote in, but it's totally anonymous. I have one data point at 20% just because I was testing it. I would say I'm utilized better than that. All right. But 60% is definitely the winner here. So there's two main reasons I want to focus on productivity. The first is because of the economics of it. And here's a quote by an economist. He said, "Productivity isn't everything, but in the long run, it is almost everything. A country's ability to improve its standard of living over time depends almost entirely on its ability to raise its output per worker." Written in 1990, and I don't think anybody disagrees with this. We all were excited when India overtakes Germany in GDP, right? That recently happened, gross domestic product. So, but when you look at India's GDP per capita, per person, it's way down on the list because, well, there's a lot more people in India than in Germany. So the standard of living in Germany is still quite a bit higher. So just on a broad scale, if we as a small institution raise our output per worker, we are going to help India in general do our part, at least, in increasing the standard of living for India. And the same thing applies to pro-synergy. The more we can optimize output per worker, the better we are at bringing value, and the more sustainable our company would be. We're doing great just now, but things are always changing. Other companies and other people are figuring out how to bring more and more value per person to businesses. Cal Newport writes about deep work, and we've already talked about this some. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare. At exactly the same time, it is becoming increasingly valuable in our economy. As a consequence, the few who cultivate this skill and that make it the core of their working life will thrive. So it's because we're entering the age of knowledge work, which we are fully in here. Some of us teachers, not quite as much, but for sure accounting work, this is knowledge work. So our ability to focus allows us to create a lot more value. And these days it's becoming harder and harder to focus, as Austin pointed out last time, for different reasons. But the few who can really focus on this will really thrive and will increase their effectiveness and increase the value they bring. So productivity because of economics. Another reason is just for personal well-being. I was looking at different articles, and this is one researcher, just a paragraph from his research. He said, employees who have opportunities to fully use their skills experience both higher job satisfaction and better mental health. In this study, we propose that the benefit of skill utilization goes beyond job satisfaction and mental health. Drawing from self-determination theory, we argue that high skill utilization in the workplace fulfills employees' fundamental needs for autonomy, support, and self-efficacy. So one way that I saw this happening here at ProSynergy is with DLC. So there was a time when there wasn't as many students as we liked, and so some of the teachers had a lot of extra time on their hands. And when I first introduced the idea of, well, could we use our teachers to also teach in community centers, I saw the light go on in their eyes, right? You could see, oh, they were excited about this. And my theory is that we want to be well utilized. We don't want to come to work and just sit around and get a little bit done. We want to come, we want to be productive, and we want to be tired at the end of the day knowing that we put in a very productive day's work, we brought a lot of value, and we can sleep at night really well because of that. So this is also for our own well-being, is another reason to try to increase productivity and our utilization. So this is something that I just thought up. It's not that profound, but I just wanted to kind of show my thought process that for productivity, I think there are four, at least in my mind, I'd like to focus on 4 pillars of production capacity: your habits, processes, technology, and then your own personal intelligence or genius. So you have on the bottom line is just your baseline manual effort. Okay, we can put in this amount of work. And then as you improve habits like deep work, like different habits that you can implement in your life to be a healthier person, and better processes. So we work on a lot of processes for bookkeeping. Here's the process. As we optimize those, we can increase the production capacity. We can do more bookkeeping jobs because we did better habits and better processes, right? And then, but the next level yet is if we can maximize the new technology that's coming out, like different AI tools, and also maximize our own personal intelligence or genius that we have, and get everybody in the role that they love. Everyone is a genius, and so, but it's different, you fit in different roles. So if everyone's in their role where they can use their genius, it increases the production capacity of our company. And this is the same in economics as, a certain amount of people can produce a certain amount of output, but as soon as you have better technology, you can produce way more. This is the paradigm shift that I want to talk about thanks to Steve Covey, who I've been reading. He mentions these things, and it was really important for me to hear that reading this year, thinking about productivity. So first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about the different eras of civilization that happened to show this. So first of all, we started out as hunter-gatherers, and I've actually been to a village in Orissa where there's still hunter-gatherers. It was really interesting. And here they're basically going out, women, children, everyone's going out into the forest, and then they gather fruits, and maybe they're hunting for animals, and they bring them back. Probably enough just for their family. They might have enough to sell in the village or something like that. Then came the agricultural age. So imagine someone living like that, and all of a sudden their friend cultivates a field, and they're able to put out 50 times more, than the gatherers were going into the forest. At first they might be skeptical, of course, but over time it's like, I have to adapt or I'm going to go hungry. So then came the agricultural age where people were growing food. And a lot of the skills of the hunter-gatherers were no longer necessary, and new skills had to be learned. And then came the industrial age, where you started building factories and building machines that could do the jobs a lot better than the family could on their farm. And again, even farms grew to large scale. In the US now, there's very much fewer farms, but huge farms operating on an industrial level. This was all about efficiency and productivity. Now again, a lot of those small farmers weren't able to make a profit what they were doing anymore. They had to adapt. They had to learn new skills, learn how to use machinery by invest in larger plots of land. So it was a whole paradigm shift that happened. Now we are living in the information or knowledge worker age, which is again very different from the industrial age. Now, no longer, a lot of the big factories where a lot of people are working, and they were optimized to produce, let's say, a car with the most efficiency. Now robots are starting to take their place, and instead people are sitting in an office designing robots, and instead of using paper and a couple of people doing the accounting, now a company in India can be doing accounting. Again, it's changed quite a lot. We're sitting in front of computers a lot more than we used to, and we're able again to be 50 times more productive than the original era. But it takes a very different way of approaching productivity than in the industrial age. And so this is the difference. In the industrial age, a lot of managers used the carrot and stick approach to motivating people. So what that means is, okay, you want someone to give more output in your factory, so you give them some kind of incentive. You put the carrot out in front of them to see if they'll run and get it. Or if they do bad, you give them some kind of punishment with a stick. So that's the motivational theory. It's like stick or carrot, and kind of treated people like things, kind of like the machines you would buy in the industrial age. You'd buy these machines and you would optimize them. And so as I was thinking about productivity, honestly, my first impulse was more in that field of thinking, and it had to change because of the age we're now living in. People have a lot more freedom, people have a lot more choice, and we need to get the most productivity and efficiency out of people. They have to be treated like whole people, not just bodies that are giving output. It's not just a bunch of bodies sitting around here outputting exactly what we want them to do anymore. We need people to think. So this whole person paradigm, I think, is really important for leadership to understand, but also for all of us to understand if we want to increase our capacity to bring more value and do more work. So the whole person paradigm says that there's 4 parts to all of us. We were created this way. We have a body, we have a heart, a mind, and a spirit. So the body is the way a lot of people are treated in the industrial age. But now we're realizing there are more parts of us that matter, that need to be taken care of for us to do a good job. Yes, we have the desire, we need to live, we have a body, we need to be cared for, we need to make money, right? We also have a heart, and that heart wants to connect with people. That heart wants to be cared for and loved. That heart wants to be passionate about what it's doing. So we also have a mind, and that mind wants to be creative. That mind wants to have vision and the ability to look out ahead, to see something new, and to be able to go after it. It doesn't want to just be told everything, right? It wants to have the freedom to go and to think on its own. And then the spirit, this desire to leave a legacy. We need meaningful work. Work that we believe is doing good in the world. Work that leaves us feeling fulfilled when we go home at night. And work that doesn't go against our conscience. So all of us have a conscience, something we believe is right and wrong. A lot of it based on religious beliefs, but also a lot of it's just universal conscience. So our work needs to be aligned with that. If we're doing something that we believe is wrong, we are not going to feel great at work. We're not going to be productive. So as we look at each other and as we think about each other, let's view each other in terms of this whole person. All of us have a body. We need to live. We need to be disciplined, exercise, be focused, be productive. We also have a heart that needs to be loved, and a heart that wants friendship and connection and wants to be passionate about what we're doing, and a mind that wants to learn, grow, continue to explore new ideas and have vision beyond what's just here and now, and a spirit that wants to live a life of integrity and a life of meaning and leave a legacy. There are 3 birth gifts that we're given, that every person is given. And the first one is this whole person paradigm and the intelligence that comes with each one of them. You've heard of IQ, right? Just your brain has a certain IQ, and some are more higher than others. I don't know if you heard of EQ, but this is emotional intelligence. This is more on the heart level thing. This is an intelligence you can really grow and develop. Then you could also say is it BQ? Your body's intelligence, like your body is created a certain way and you can care for it and develop it. And then there's SQ, which is your spiritual life, which is another form of intelligence. And we want to use and optimize all four forms of intelligence to be able to grow into our maximum potential. So this is like a way of seeing the world. It's like a paradigm. So it's like a pair of glasses through which we look at each other. And this makes a big difference for how we approach each other as we try to optimize our productivity as a team. The other birth gift that we're given is the power to choose. And this is probably the most powerful thing you as a human have, is the power to choose. And this is again from Steve Covey. There's a space between stimulus and response. So the problem here is that a lot of people live their lives based on what other people are saying or doing to you. And a lot of people believe that they're a product of their upbringing or how other people treat them, what other people say. It's kind of a deterministic way of living, but it's just, I'm stuck here because people blame a lot. This happened because of him, her. And we tend to think that our life is the way it is because of what other people have done and said to us. And of course, some things are hereditary, like I think my high blood pressure. Some things, yes, you grew up in a family that was difficult. Sometimes you might have much less opportunity than other people. However, never does that space go away between stimulus and response. Stimulus is what happens to you or what someone said to you. For example, someone is rude to you. Okay? In between the stimulus and the response, well, you could say there's two possible responses. One is anger, which is a negative outcome. The other one is choosing patience, which is the positive outcome. Okay, so which one will it be? And we think, sometimes we think, because they were rude to me, I was angry, right? That's the way we tend to think. But what we forget so often is there's a space there where we got to choose. And herein lies our power to make our lives better and to increase our capacity for all kinds of things in life. So in between is this space, this self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and our independent will. These things, so we can stop and we can say, okay, I can actually choose now how I'm going to respond to this situation. So this is a really, really important concept to understand if we want to improve ourselves. And no matter what your environment, you can still improve it. You can improve your environment and you can improve yourself. So this whole thought really changed my life. When I was first working in a company as a tow truck driver, I just did my job and I didn't make a lot of money, and I thought, I just have to do this because it was the only opportunity I had when I moved to this new city. And I'm just kind of stuck here. And I came across this and I realized no matter what my situation, I have a choice to do something that will improve it. And so I did simple things like I washed my truck a lot more than a lot of the guys, and I took on the hard jobs, the jobs that other drivers didn't want to do. And I said, I get to choose how I respond. If it's a hard job, I can say, I'll do it, and go do it with a nice clean truck. And so that over time made a really big difference. It influenced my team members who were working with me, influenced my boss, and eventually my boss said, I want to make you a partner in this company. What can we do? So it's like I could have stayed stuck and said, well, just because of how my situation is, the guys were listening to bad music and cussed, and it was just a bad environment. I could have said, I'm just stuck here because of this. But thankfully, because I was introduced to this concept, I was able to improve it. So the second birth gift we're given is our freedom to choose. And this is another concept from Steve Covey that also changed my life. And I think we'll stop with this one, and then next time we'll review these and continue on. So the third gift you were given is there are certain principles in the world that produce certain outcomes. They never change, they're timeless. Principles that were put in place at the creation of the world continue and stayed the same until now, and you know they will stay the same in the future. If we do this based on the principles, this will be the outcome. One of those principles is very much connected to our first core value of responsibility, or you could say self-initiative. So the principle is that as you take self-initiative and responsibility, your influence will expand. And first, let me just talk about this. There's circle of influence and circle of concern. So there's a lot of things in the world that we are concerned about, right? That we care about. We care about the weather. We care about the economy. We care about mistakes that have happened. We care about others' opinions of us. But we cannot actually influence those things. Now, I think we can influence the economy a tiny bit, but we can't actually we can't just go do something and change the economy of India right now, right? But we care about it so much and we wish it was good so that our standard of living and our neighbors could be better. Then there's things that we care about but that are within our circle of influence, like our own attitude, the effort we put in, skills that we have, habits that we have, choices that we make. And as a general rule, we want to focus on things that are within our circle of influence. So when we are so focused on things outside of our influence, we just get stuck and we feel frustrated. Our circle of influence becomes smaller because we're so focused outside of it. But when we look inside our circle of influence and we start right at the center with ourselves and figure out how to improve ourselves and make us be the person we want to be, and then maybe other things you can directly influence around you. Now, your job might actually be most of it hopefully is in your circle of influence. Some of it might be outside your circle of influence a bit as well. But you can expand your circle of influence by, first of all, focusing on what you can influence. And then as you look out, slowly making some suggestions, and I'll talk about this more next time. So these two mindsets are, I think, kind of help prepare us, think about productivity and what to do to improve ourselves. There's three. The whole person paradigm, which means that we're body, heart, mind, and spirit. This truth that there is a space between stimulus and response, and we all have the power to choose to improve. And these circle of influence where there's a principle where if we focus on our circle of influence, we'll become a more effective person. So that's all for today. And next time we'll get into more of the mindsets of productivity and what we can do. And then later on in other sessions, we'll talk more about some habits we can implement, some tools we can use, very practical tools that we can implement to increase our productivity.